Welcome to 11.4, Solving Inequalities. We're going to be given an inequality that looks like this. Notice it looks very similar to an equation that we have solved before. However, instead of an equal sign to make an equation, we have an inequality. So we have either greater than, less than, greater and less than, something along those lines. We're going to solve them just like we would solve a normal equation. However, there's going to be one exception. This exception is that if you multiply or divide by a negative number, you must flip the sign. And when we say flip, if we had a greater than sign, it's going to now become a less than sign. Everything else is going to stay the same. Let's look at the first example. Since it's h divided by 5, we want to undo that operation, so we're going to multiply by 5, and we're going to do it to both sides. And when we do, 5 times 24, we get 120. We're going to keep our sign the exact same, and then these 5's cancel out because it's 5 over 1. So we say 120 is greater than h. Another way that we can write this is we can start with the h. Okay, notice the two lines come to a point at the h, so we want to duplicate that. So we can say h is less than 120. Now we're going to graph it. Now I made my scale. I put numbers that were conveniently around 120. We said it's less than 120. We're going to put an open circle because it is just less than. If we had something like this, we would put a full circle. With this, we just have an open circle because it's not including that number. And now we said it's less than, so we want every number that is less than 120 for our solution set. That's what your graph should look like. Okay, our next one we're going to solve in a similar manner. So it's negative 7 times x, so we're going to divide by negative 7, and we're going to do it to both sides. So we're going to get x. Remember, if we multiply or divide by a negative, we flip the sign. So instead of greater than, it becomes less than or equal. And we still have a negative 6. So make sure that you flip that sign if you multiply or divide by a negative number. So now we're asked to graph x is less than or greater than negative 6. We're going to go to negative 6. It's going to be a filled-in circle because it includes it. It can be equal to it, and it's going to be less. Okay, notice when I made my scale, I included numbers to the left and right of our selected number. Okay, that just makes it a little easier to see and to see what values are included. I want you to try the next example on your own. Solve it and plot it. When you are ready, go ahead and hit resume. Once you have solved it out, this is what it should look like. Notice the variables on the right-hand side. It's a little hard to read when we say negative 8 is less than r. But if we change it around, we say r, and then we get the big mouth. Okay, faces the r, and then we have negative 8. It's a lot easier to see this way. And it makes it easier to graph. So we have r is solely greater than negative 8. That means it's not including negative 8. It's just greater than. And numbers that are larger are always going to the right. On the final one, we're going to multiply both sides by 5 because we want to undo that operation. And when we do, we get x is greater than 75. When we plot our graph, it's going to look something like this. Notice I went by 5s this time, just makes it a little easier. If you want to go by 1s and just include numbers to the left and to the right, that's quite alright. It's solely greater than 75, so that means it's going to be an open circle. It's going to be greater than, so it's going to go this way. Okay, again, our keys, we're going to solve the equation. If it's negative that we're multiplying or dividing by, then we flip that sign and then we graph it accordingly.